as it's described. The full armor of God will protect our DNA from being activated, and from a physics standpoint, the activation of those nanoparticles is done through electromagnetic stimuli. More specifically, it's done through microwaves. And this microwave connection exists through our Wi-Fi, through our interconnecting, not just by the internet, because the internet really is an obsolete system. The sentient world simulation operates not in an internet-based way, it operates in a full spectrum. In other words, all the electromagnetic energy that surrounds the Earth, no matter its frequency, no matter what radio spectrum or microwave spectrum, this is full spectrum dominance, as it's called in the military. Full spectrum dominance of all of the electromagnetic signals around the planet means that we're immersed,
right,
not just in a Wi-Fi environment, but in an electromagnetic environment. This is something that they don't want people to consciously understand, is that this is an electric universe. This is why we go back to talking about Einstein versus Tesla.
Right.
The reason that they talk about dark matter, dark energy, is so that people don't realize that we are immersed in an electrical environment, and they will use that electrical environment to change our DNA and to change our DNA, but the Holy Spirit interferes with that.
I had mentioned it, Chris, this Tesla type stuff, and I said, when you look at it and you hear people explain how they create Tesla coils, what makes us not a node Tesla coil just walking around on the surface that we are Tesla coils, in the sense that we are surrounded by all this stuff being bombarded, and we're having that whole kind of electrical connection like those Tesla coils have. You got the two poles, one, our feet are on the ground, we're grounded, and our head's in the air, and we're getting bombarded by this whole thing. Is that what they're trying to do? 7 billion nodes of Tesla coils out there, you know?
Sure.
And I think the Twin Towers, when they went down, they became the Freedom Tower of one, the combination of your 288s there. And now the Triumph Arch of Baal going up there is kind of like the icing on the cake in my book. It's already designated that they triumphed over this nation, and now they're going to have a portal there saying this is the final icing on the cake.
So if Jupiter is Baal, and they're putting up arches of Baal all over the world, and they represent gates and sacrifices also. Baal is Jupiter. The Lord of Jubilee is Thoth. He is the one who burst the Ogdode, which is the capstone. He's also Quetzalcoatl, and the Mayans say that he is going to come back now. We are in the time of the capstone. 2016 is when he is supposed to return.
Okay.
So Quetzalcoatl is also Thoth. He's also Hapu. And in Egypt, which is the god of the Nile. The Nile is the river in the sky, or the serpent in the sky. November 20th is when Jupiter goes into the womb. Interestingly, Mercury is Hermes. He's also Thoth. Mercury is the messenger god of the night, and he is the one that's supposed to transfer the souls to the dead. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, which Jupiter will be born, and he also is member of the spirit of all these planets. He's the Antichrist spirit, and he also is the ruler of the Gemini twins. The Gemini twins represent the two pillars, the sun and the moon, Set and Horus, Apollo and Hermes, and that's why I think CERN was built over Apollo's temple in order to resurrect Apollo, because he's Apollyon, he's the Antichrist, he's the sun god, and the Bennu bird burst the sun in order to create the Ogdode in history, and that's the resurrected Saturn. The head is not attached to the body, which is the capstone, and the capstone is Saturn. It is 4096, it is the Ohm, it is the Saturn, Venus, Jupiter combination, because if you look at all the planets, the 7, which Shiva is 7 planets, So if you look at all the 7 planets, they equal Saturn. And that's why they say Ogdoad of the 8, because he's the 8. And I try to get out what I'm trying to think, Anthony, and it's so hard. It's like, you know, the capstone is Saturn. They want to put Saturn on the body. They want to connect Saturn with Earth, male and female, Inky, male, female. And they called Saturn heaven, and they called him the sun god, and they worshipped him as God, as Lucifer. So this is what they want to happen again, except this time they built this machine here, CERN, in this quantum 4096 computer, which is the connection of this Wi-Fi, because I think that they are building this up until they can make that connection to Saturn, until a certain alignment, and they can ignite Saturn as the sun, and to be able to rule over the earth and connect to all of the planets or his body. So he has to connect to all of them and to take control and to rule the world. And that's why Jesus is coming. He's coming to save his children and to take us out of the deception and to bring us to home, to heaven, where we will live forever.
Well, we spoke last year about their intent is to recreate their mythological, I want to underscore mythological, golden age of Kronos. Kronos being Saturn, being the previous sun, the primordial sun by which time was measured. The myth is that Mars, Saturn, and the Earth were encapsulated within a plasma envelope, and that plasma envelope sustained all life. There was no darkness. There actually, in this construct, there was no time because there was no day or night. Saturn was the sun to a man-inhabited Earth during this golden age of Kronos. And Saturn, the Earth, and Mars traveled together within this envelope through the cosmos, entered our solar system, and not gravitationally, but electromagnetically was attracted by the sun and captured into its present orbit, and that caused a massive disruption of the orbits of the planets and, you know, the birthing of planets. So to encapsulate that into what you're saying, if they are trying to reignite Saturn, they're actually trying to reignite the plasma, recreate the plasma envelope surrounding Saturn that existed during this golden age of Kronos. Now, whether or not the plutonium on Cassini will prove to be the match that's struck, there's some debate about that, only because the quantities of plutonium are very small. They're used for maintaining the electronics. They're literally heaters, atomic heaters, and they're encapsulated in lead compartments, and they're separate compartments. And the quantity of plutonium actually is quite small. It produces enough heat to maintain the electronics so that they don't freeze. But I think the Cassini is more of a target. I think it is being provided as a pinpoint target at Saturn, to which the Large Hadron